a lot of people have been asking me this question, and I've been doing this for several years. How do you get started? How do you use the software? How do you get the peripherals? How do you have everything that you need to start a video podcast, to start an audio podcast? And how do you use this software that when you first look at it looks extremely daunting because there's many different things on the screen at once and you're never quite sure what to do or how to do it without somebody walking you through step by step. So that's part of what we're here to do. And just because we have some newcomers to the podcast world in Mark and RWD, so I figured, what the heck? Let's walk them through. Let's show them the ropes on how to start up a podcast, on how to use the software, and we can, of course, answer any questions that are in the chat. Now, once we've gone over a bit of the opening video diatribe that we're going to be going through, then I will open up a Twitter space and people can ask questions as they see fit and message me with any questions that they may have. So, Mark, unfortunately, your third compadre in your effort of the Bearded Federalist is not going to be joining us tonight, and I understand that he will be primarily the one operating OBS, but you, of course, have some experience with the program yourself. So,
yep.
What is your biggest questions in how to start a podcast?
I do earlier. So I screw up a lot of things just to figure out my way. So one thing I've observed here is, the biggest concern I had was the cost of getting started. And just like, what equipment do I need? What lighting do I need? How do I get that all worked out? And it's funny. Like, right now I have $3 lamps that I got from Home Depot. These construction lamps that you just screw a light bulb in, and one's attached to a shower curtain blasted against the wall, and then I've got another one that's my key light for like $15, and I bought like a $30 diffuser. To get me started in this, it cost me $30. So I'm not very disappointed at all. So a lot of the issues that I'm dealing with right now is I didn't start any kind of new venture at all. It's what you don't know. So it's the things that you don't know that you need to know that get you. And so, like right now, I'm playing around with OBS, and I've got my cell phone working as a webcam, and it's working great in OBS. And I've used some other utilities that will work well with it. But I can see right now I have a green screen fully operational from what I'm looking at. But on this feed, everyone sees my wonderful green screen and the great room I've got behind it. And so these are little technical glitches and stuff like that, hurdles that you have to get over. Just figuring out what software is good, what software isn't, what things worked well together. I come from a cybersecurity background, and I'm a pretty tech savvy guy. And so I understand that certain things just don't play well with others. And so figuring that all out is part of the just what you don't know kind of thing. And so these are the kind of things I'm looking forward to, and I just spend some time with you guys here. It's just I need to know what I don't know in getting this set up.
Oh yeah, and for sure, like when I was first starting out, I'll see if I can kind of scroll while we're doing other things this evening, and I'll find you a picture, a screenshot of my very first episode that I did, which was back in 2020. And the things, like, I had nothing. I had this used Logitech webcam that I was using the microphone from the webcam because I didn't have anything. I started from absolutely square one, probably square zero, because I didn't have any supplies, and then gradually built up and figured out which worked and which didn't. And a lot of it is it's just trial and error. And it's nice to have other people to ask questions and to go back and forth, because they can let you know what they failed at, what worked for them, what didn't. And we've already learned, even this evening with RWD, because he's using a Mac, that I had to swap things over on the fly because I didn't have the proper software, or at least the software that I have been using to capture video wouldn't work on a Mac. And so these are just things that you guys will have to figure out. And the only reason that it's working right now is because I have two monitors to use, and I'm just kind of keeping the video screen in the bottom right-hand corner that I'm not looking at. So, but in terms of what people need to get going, the most basic software, and if you have questions about what software or how to use the software, feel free to use the chat. Of course, we're streaming on Twitter right now. So if you want people to learn how to use a podcast themselves, if you have somebody who might be starting out or wants to start out into this field, then send them a link. I'd be happy to walk people through any questions which they might have. But to go off and sort of do this in the spur of the moment. Yes, I want to launch. Okay. So I'm going to be using OBS, and so I'm going to be switching over the feed to what I'm using, and I'm also going to share my screen on Discord so that you guys can see it as well. So I need to access all of this. So I need to share my screen with you, which is the second OBS. All right, there it is. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And of course, okay, why is this not letting me stream right now? There it is. Go live. There. Now people don't have to see that. So you guys can see what I'm seeing, and I will switch over so that other people can see it as well. So window capture. All right. So now everybody can see this. And so you generally use, I have a lot of things on my screen, especially in the scenes menu, because I record a lot of stuff. Now, generally, when you are working with OBS, which is the simplest software to use in terms of recording and streaming, and generally using any sort of audio or video project that you might be working on, because it is free and it's open source. So those who are tech savvy know that you can see what's in the coding. It's not anything that's underhanded. But if you wish to add to the screen, so say I want, what was the biggest question you had, Mark? You were trying to add a window. So
I think one of the issues that
yep.
Frost was having with us was when he had all of us on here at the same time, being able to have another window for example, an article that we wanted to cover, or a news feed, or a story that we wanted to cover.
All right. So I'm going to put this in the back corner because this is our, actually I'm going to put this in the right corner. That's our Discord page, which we're using as our video stream. And if you want to cover a different article, so I'm going to open up a new browser window. And So if you want to do that, it's actually fairly simple. Window capture can be used to capture anything that is a website, it's essentially anything but a game. And so there's window, there's Brave, and then I just put it down below. And there you have it. So there's your video stream, and there is your window capture.
That must be what Nick Fuentes uses to stream his
It's
stuff.
I would say it's probably what the majority of people use to capture, because it is, once you have OBS figured out, then it's actually fairly intuitive to change things over and make things better. And then it's fairly simple to switch over. So like if I wanted to go back to what we're doing today, then I just switch back and forth between the seats. And now I've never actually done it where I've had two different OBS windows working at the same time. So surprisingly, it's working quite well. Because from what I've heard from other people, including your third podcast, Compadre, it can do a number on your processor usage. So, but it's also quite easy with other forms of media to change over the audio sources, to make it louder, to make it softer, to add filters. There's lots of different things that you can do, and it's a very versatile program. But is there any other kind of queries we have about just general how to do everything with OBS? I know if you have any specific questions. Yep, sorry, Dan.
No, most of what I'm dealing with is just getting my browser window to capture. It was working earlier, and for some reason it's glitchy. So the main thing that's just a glitch I'm dealing with. I did figure out how to resize the camera, like for doing a camera and audio only scene, and be able to transition.
Yeah, well,
so I played a little bit with it earlier today.
So resizing is actually it's a little awkward, but it's not super difficult to do. So I'll go back to the other OBS screen. So say I wanted, like this is the Discord page that we've been using. And what I'm using actually to capture the video for now is there's an option called transform. And then if you go into edit transform, you can change all of the options about where the positional alignment is. But what I would do is, because this has all of the information that I don't want generally to be out there, so then I'll just crop the side in. I'll crop it by 300. And then that's how you get your picture. And if I was to go intense with all of this, then I could individually crop the videos so that each one of you had a different video screen and I could maneuver them around as I saw fit. But that requires a lot more time and energy and complexity. And we were still sort of figuring out everything involved with getting our audio and our video running today. But
do you use a Stream Deck type controller for like switching scenes and stuff like that?
Nope. I do it all manual.
That's
why it always looks so a little like, that's why behind the scenes I'm like, You always see me like my eyes are just darting everywhere because I have to remember in my head where to go and what to do at all times. But with 3 of you, it would actually work fairly well if you had one person that would manage an aspect of what you're doing involving the podcast. So if one of you was just managing which window or like which article that you're reading through, and then share it to someone else who's managing just OBS, and then another person would say be managing the social media aspect, especially if you were live streaming, because you're going to have to manage live chat.
I can do the social media.
Like nobody's been, as far as I can tell, nobody's been using the chat aside from Good Faith. Hello, Good Faith. But usually, if you're managing Twitch and Kick, the chat is a lot more active, and they'll demand much more consistent and immediate responses compared to, say, Twitter, in which most people are just tuning in to see what's up, and they're waiting until you start a Twitter space so that they can yell at you and some aspect.
I just make
So many
memes.
gaming badass memes. So
Badass memes.
in the gaming community,
Mhm.
on OBS, you see a lot of these guys using different overlays.
Yes.
You know, like, where's good sources for those? Is there just easy way to make your own?
OBS
Streaming
has
for video games is entirely different than a podcast per se.
Yes.
So I don't even know if that kind of thing is even warranted.
So what I have done, and I'll switch back to my other screen on OBS. Actually, I'll switch back to what I use for the regular show, which would be scene 3, and then this is commentary. So I have, and ignore most of the other stuff that's happening, because this is a lot of this other stuff I have. But on the bottom corner, so this is an overlay for the live chat. And so I use Restream for my live chat. And so that I use browser. And then Restream, what they'll actually allow you to do is you can get the URL just to the overlay for your chat. And so while you're using, if you want the chat to show up on the video feed, then you can do that. Most people will have that on the side in terms of a gaming feed, but I just wanted to have it on the side so that we can be more present. Present? How do you pronounce that word? Prescient?
Isn't
Well, like, present is one way.
prescient.
Prescient, yes, prescient. And because that's what I would aim for if you're trying to have an active back and forth with those who are just commuting by chat. Because what Dan and I usually do.
That word, man.
I know, Canadians and 3 syllables.
That's more than us Alabama boys can do.
Road hat.
So that's generally how I would do an overlay. I'm not a master at having chat overlays by any stretch of the imagination, because I've just mostly kept things in terms of capturing video and audio fairly simple, and I didn't want to make things overtly complicated. I don't want to say for the sake of being complicated, but I really just wanted everything to be click, done.
Talk to me about Nitro. I went ahead and bought it, got it paid for.
Okay, I have
How do you
nothing
slap
about
a
Nitro.
background in there? Oh, okay.
Okay, so that would be
All
actually
right,
something which RWD can cover.
All right, man. You at your lower left corner, you'll see, I guess, your name that says online. Go to the settings, the user settings, and then
Gotcha.
you go all the way down to voice and video. and then you'll scroll down there, and you'll see a bunch of different options. Let me know if you can see it.
I'm in voice and video now, and so video settings. Hey, you know what? I wonder if they'll let me do this. Okay.
And you should the one you'll probably want to use is the blur, or you can choose from like a custom. If you have a custom, I can always make you one.
Yeah. So that of course is one way. So we're primarily talking right now about video backgrounds. There are multiple ways and multiple programs that you can use to have well-functioning video backgrounds. So right now they're talking about Discord Nitro. Discord Nitro, of course, if you're using Discord as the way to communicate with the others, if in your video podcast, is a perfectly valid way of getting a background on your screen. Because I do not typically use Discord as my video sharing or video conferencing during my streams, due to the problems that I detailed in our group chat earlier. But if you wish to know, unless you have a dual monitor setup, it is not going to work for you. Because you can't just have your Discord video running 100% of the time unless you have somebody entirely dedicated to doing that. What I use in terms of getting video backgrounds and getting participants to show up, we learned that this does not show up on Mac because it's not a program, but when I'm using video conferencing, I'm using a program called TrueConf because it is free, and because you can have unlimited video calls every month. And for my video capture, because I'm not going directly from my webcam, I'm using a program called XSplit VCam, and that costs approximately 30 American every year, which I think is a totally normal expense, because it's only a few dollars a month, and I can create whatever backgrounds that I want. I believe, Dan, you are using XSplit at the moment?
Yes.
And so Dan has this very marvelous background of Rivendell. At least I'm fairly certain that's Rivendell.
Yes, it's Rivendell.
And it's quite lovely. And then, of course, you can modify...
You know about StreamYard?
I know very little about StreamYard. I believe I tried it out once. I just wasn't willing to pay the monthly... The problem with a lot of these multi-streaming functions and multi-streaming programs is that the cost on a monthly basis is usually more than you'd want to spend, especially if you're only doing your podcast or your video streaming services about once a week. If you were streaming once a day, then multi-streaming, I'm paying between, I believe it's $15 to $30 monthly just for the multi-streaming services. So because I'm only live streaming once a week, I just choose whichever of the two end video sources that I wish to use, to put it in perspective. So right now I'm only streaming to Twitch. I'm only streaming to YouTube and Twitter. Hello, Joy. I love you. What's that? You gonna say hi? No. Okay. Oh, you're just being mean. Alright. Well, Daddy's working. Okay. Alright. So, Dan's just giggling in the corner. Alright. Dan, you said you had more questions about OBS.
I did play around with it a lot, and I started to figure some of it out. I got my window capture for Opera, because I use Opera for my browser, back up. There's just some sort of a glitch. Now, we'll have to see when you get some time, like, how do you split the videos and everything like that for crop and move around. That is something I'm interested in. Like if
Oh.
using a
Okay, like if I was to take the current video screen and that we have right now and then split it so that I can maneuver all of your faces around.
yeah, that's
All right.
one.
Sure, let's do that. So, I'm gonna go into the. I'm gonna switch over so that it's on that screen, which I'm hoping everybody can see this as I'm manipulating it. So I will go into try show commentary. So what I'm going to do is currently I'm running all of your video via one window capture. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 or 4 more.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
And then from there I would so say on this one in the top left, which I'm manipulating now, I'm going to edit this. And I'm going to edit it so it only shows, say, RWD. So I'm going to drop about 600 pixels off the top, which apparently deleted everything. So maybe 200 pixels.
Hey, also, I got TrueConf to download on my Mac, but right now I'm running into issues registration wise.
Okay. And you have to sort of get used to how many pixels that you want to take off of each one. And then from the left, let's say 200. 275. 280. There, good enough. So there, I have just RWD's video feed, and I can maneuver it around as much as I want.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the problem with that is that essentially you need a lot of setup time for each show, unless you're having consistently the same number of guests. If you're having the same number of guests every time, then it's actually not too difficult. Like, say, for the Bearded Federalists, they're always going to be having 3, at least unless you have special guests that day. Then it'll be fairly simple to say, okay, this is Marks, this is Captains, this is RWDs. And then in TrueConf, it would be the same thing. You just don't have to have the Discord window open. So, well, I answered Mark's questions, Dan's questions. Let's see if there's any questions anybody is posing in the chat. I don't believe there's anybody who's mentioning anything at the moment. So in terms of like basic equipment that you'll need, if you're just doing an audio podcast, you will not need a computer of any. You don't need something super powerful. When I was first starting, even in video podcasting, if you're just doing recordings, you don't need something that has any amount of low-down grunt to put it in kind of a basic understanding. You just need something that can manage your video feed. Now, for you guys, because Captain will be managing most of your OBS, and he has a fairly strong computer, none of this is going to be an issue for you. And unless RWD is managing it, I do not know how Mac does on OBS. I will say that. I've never had...
I somehow was able to download OBS and TrueConf, so...
Okay. So...
Yeah.
It might work well, it might not. I have absolutely zero experience using OBS on a Mac. In terms of basic equipment, if you're wanting to have a back and forth, if you're wanting to have guests on your show, then of course you're going to need two basic things. You're going to need at least some form of headphones, and you're going to need a microphone. If you're going really cheap, then you could go with an option that has go with more of a gaming style microphone, and that will offer you a slight reduction in audio quality, but it does give you cheapness.
There's some really good cheap lapels that don't really cost much, but they give you pretty decent audio.
That's true. That's true. Like for me, like what I'll do, I'll actually just swap it over. So I'll briefly use my headset microphone. So this is just a basic gaming microphone. And you can tell that there's a difference in the quality. And I'll change it on the feed as well, so people can hear it. So this is me using my headset microphone. It is, of course, different. It has a different sound and a different audio variety. But for a headset microphone combo, it's not that bad. And especially if you're just doing an audio podcast, nobody is going to be able to tell that you're not having this studio microphone in front of you. So, but if you want kind of a breakdown of different types of microphones, kind of a set list on tiers, per se, because I'm not even close to the top tier of microphones. I'm using, in American dollars, probably something that's worth about $120. And I've had this one for 3 years. And it's worked really well. And then a boom arm is, of course, very handy for not having anything interact with you and you don't have to reach around. I used to have a stand for my microphone, and that was very awkward to use. So I would definitely...
I'm using a desktop microphone, so I got just a little stand down here.
Mm-hmm.
I have that Blue Yeti.
Blue Yeti, I find that for a price point comparison, Blue Yeti, Labatt Blue... no, it's not Labatt Blue. Labatt Blue is a beer.
That's a good drink.
But Blue Yetis are usually the simplest to get into podcasting, and they're usually quite affordable. And for quite some time, I used a Blue Snowball for whenever I was having two people in the same room. And it did fairly well at catching everybody's voices with reasonable accuracy. This is not a good microphone for capturing multiple people in a room. It's kind of terrible. So...
Oh, what do you know about distribution services? So the services that will, you load up your podcast to it, like one version in video, one in audio, and then it does the distribute Spotify and Rumble and YouTube and all the others for you.
Yeah.
Have you?
I have some experience with that. I briefly used a style of distribution, not software, but there was a website that I was connected to, and I was uploading every once in a while, and they call it the easiest way to start a podcast. And if you're just doing audio for your podcast, I would 100% suggest this, because you don't need any other software. All you need is a microphone. And that software is called Anchor. And you can upload an audio file, you can upload a video file, and then all you have to do is wait. And within, I believe it's about 2 hours, Anchor will upload it to their own catalog. They'll upload it to Apple Podcasts, they'll upload it to Spotify, and I believe several other podcasting channels. And all you have to do is upload it once to Anchor. And you could also, if you start to gain traction via Anchor, they do offer some form of reimbursement in the form of advertisements. It's usually not a ton, but I know a lot of smaller channels when I first started out that would advertise for Anchor, because they'll offer, I believe it's $15 for every 1,000 views. Maybe it wasn't quite that much. I think it was $1 for every 1,000 views.
Anchor got taken over by Spotify.
Oh, things I did not know, because that's how long it's been since I've used Anchor. It was a very good program in its day. I enjoyed using it.
I'm re-downloading it right now on my phone.
Oh. Yeah, I never had it on my phone. I only used it on the browser. But, yeah. Oh, and then another thing, if you're doing a video podcast, there's several different ways there's two different ways which you can capture video. You can either use a webcam in terms of a basic USB hookup, or you can do what Mark is doing, and you can run it through your phone. I used to run it through my phone. I did that for probably about 2 years. If you have a exceptionally solid internet connection, it's usually a fairly decent choice to run with. I find the biggest problem is if you're trying to use your phone for anything else, it is a nightmare. I almost had to I would use my wife's old broken phone as my webcam, because then I would be able to still access my phone and send texts off and such. And if I got a phone call, then if I was using my own phone, it would be a nightmare. But
what are phone calls?
What are phone calls? I know. Well,
people still get those?
Primarily from strange people called mothers, who do not often rely on text messages. My mom is definitely the most frequent person that calls me. She'll send a text, and then if I do not respond within 5 minutes, she will call, and she's like, "You didn't answer my text message." I'm like, "What are you expecting that I'm gonna answer right away?" But any other questions, queries? I know that, of course, Captain will have some other things for me. When he is free, I will definitely have a chat with him and answer any questions that I can. Otherwise than that, I think we might just switch over, and I'll start a Twitter space, and then we can have a discussion with anybody who's been watching, anybody who's been listening, and any questions that they might have if they're interested in starting up, because we were more addressing a lot of the in-depth technical questions.
So, I'll probably stay on for like 5 or 10 minutes and then go to bed.
Sure. Well, you're in an Eastern time zone, aren't you?
No, it's only 8 o'clock here.
What time do you wake up?
4:30.
Oh, that's my winter schedule.
Yeah, no, I it's been a really busy week at work, and since tomorrow's Friday, I'm going in at like 5:45 or 6, and that way I can leave early.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'm heading off of work early. I've had in the past month or two, I've had several deaths in the family. And so I had a funeral yesterday, and then I have a funeral to go to on Saturday as well.
Damn, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. So, the one yesterday was for my aunt, and it was pretty hard hitting, because she was under 60.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So that one hurt. But I'm gonna, I'll drop off of Discord, and then I'll start a Twitter space, and anybody who.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to
Anytime.
Yes.
coach us and help us. But, I hope we do you well and turn this into something good.
I am anticipating. I'm looking forward to listening and checking out what you
Same
guys
here.
have. So, but I'll stop the stream, and then other people can chime in or yell at us. So I'll see.